Okay, guys, welcome to the latest edition of the podcast. This is the first one since last year to be with someone who is both a member, because that's how she started out, but also now a coach. We have Claire Warrington. Hello, Claire.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, we do this every time. I've chatted to you for the last couple of minutes, and then all of a sudden I pretend like I haven't seen you in ages. The funny thing is, actually, you're one of the very few people I've seen in real life over the course of the last few months, because occasionally, like, we don't do it on purpose, because obviously it's not technically okay, but as I'm arriving in the club or you're leaving from the club, we cross over a little bit. It's weird, isn't it, not seeing people in real life?
It is. I'm looking forward to seeing real people again properly quite soon.
Alex, my wife, got back from the doctors the other day, and she was all like buzzing. She was excited. I was like, "Well, why are you so excited?" She went, "I've seen a real person, a doctor." And I went, "Didn't that doctor give you an injection in the bottom?" And she went, "Well, yeah, but it was different." Right, Claire. For those of you people listening to this who won't know you, you obviously started out originally as a member. So that was what now, 5 years ago, four.
I think it was four.
Yeah,
Yeah.
four full years. Yeah, yeah. So run me through then the what, let's say 21 years of Claire before that, to put it
Yeah,
nicely.
let's say
Tell
one.
tell us about pre us meeting you, Claire.
Okay, so where do I start? I think a lot of members have heard a little bit of my story because I used to talk at the briefing meetings. So, a potted history really is my mum was always a little bit overweight. She was always on a diet. She was always trying to find the next quick fix to help her lose the weight. So I would always sort of tag along for the ride, really. So I'd go along with her to exercise classes or whatever crazy diet she was doing next. So I remember doing the Atkins diet with her in my early teens and eating a tin of tuna from the tin for breakfast. And yeah, I can't really eat tuna quite so well anymore. So, as I entered adulthood myself, I did join a gym, a traditional proper gym, and I used to go there 2 or 3 times a week, and I maintained that for about a year. Didn't really get very far. Spent a lot of time in the sauna and the steam room because they're nice things to have in a fancy gym. And then I tried Slimming World. I wanted to lose. I didn't lose weight for my wedding, but when I saw my wedding photos and my honeymoon pictures, I thought, it would have been nice to have been a bit slimmer. And that was when I lost my weight. So the month after we got married, I joined Slimming World.
15 years ago, I saw the other day.
Yeah, 15 years ago. Yeah, so I joined Slimming World about a month later. Lost about 3 stone with them in preparation for trying for a baby, which happened really quickly. So Joseph came along. He was an enormous baby. He was over £10. And I put on a lot of weight with him. Some of it was weight, some of it was baby, some of it was water. But I never really felt the need to lose it in between because I always planned to have another child. So, and then Harry came along 4 years after that. He was not quite so big, but I was bigger. We used it as an excuse. I'm going to have another big baby. So I ate what I wanted throughout both pregnancies and just used it as an excuse. And didn't really do any exercise again until, well, maybe about a year or so before I joined Rise. I joined one of the local fancy fitness places that have a
Hmm.
sauna and a steam room and a swimming pool and a creche. Very expensive family membership where we spent more money in the cafe as well. And it just never felt welcome there. Never felt like it was anywhere where we fitted in, anywhere where we felt welcomed, and just didn't go anywhere with that. And then I don't know what it was, but I felt like I was ready to try and make a bit more of an effort. And one of my friends, Kelly, was checking
Hmm.
in at the academy as it was then. A couple of times a week. And I was like, I wonder what she's doing. And I never asked her about it because I didn't want to. She was somebody that I knew from school, and I knew her, but I didn't know her well. And I was like, I wonder what it is that she's up to. And so when I saw the thing for the briefing meeting, I'm like, well, I'll just pop down and find out. So I thought I'd rather go out and find out about it myself rather than awkwardly ask somebody what she was doing. So I went down to the briefing meeting and heard all about the academy and thought it sounded like a great place to join. And it was, when I joined the academy, I found my family. I found somewhere I fitted in, somewhere I felt welcomed. somewhere where people would check in on me if I didn't attend as planned. And yeah, it felt like home. And as you know, I planned not to stay. I was going to do the 8-week challenge,
Mhm.
and then leave, like lots of us say. But it never, I never felt like I could see my life without, the club in it. So it was good.
Awesome. Who was it that gave their members story when you came? Was it Ronnie, presumably?
No, it should have been Faye, but Faye couldn't make it. It was Lauren and
Right.
Ben.
Okay, right, yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
they only did literally possibly two, I think, just when I think at that point it was mainly Ronnie doing it, and then maybe Faye was normal reserve, and then perhaps if neither of them could make it, yeah, I think they did. They perhaps only did it one time, but yeah, okay, cool.
but Lauren
So,
really spoke to me because I think we'd had like quite a similar journey in terms of
mm,
swimming world and all that sort of stuff. So.
so to rewind a little bit, what is it about those approaches that you tried in the past that you didn't feel worked for you?
It was no one cared. You're a number in somebody's membership book. You know,
Hmm.
in fact, you're not even that, are you? It's on a computer. And as long as your direct debit's going out every month, they don't care whether you turn up or not. Maybe in the first few weeks, they might check in. You might see a friendly face on the gym floor, but they didn't. They didn't really care. I suppose the very first gym I went to, when I very first joined the gym with Mum, we joined together. There was the coach there that looked after us when we first joined. She was really friendly and she took the time with us, but she wouldn't have phoned us. She wouldn't have checked in if she'd not seen us for a while. She wouldn't have checked in.
Hmm.
And after that, yeah, just nothing ever really clicked. Didn't. There was no social aspect. There was, yeah, nobody cared. That was the key, wasn't it? Nobody cared.
Yeah, cool. I get that completely, and hopefully that's something we try and put there out to people to get them to understand. And I think the funny thing is, actually, from my experience, a lot of the time they do care. I've got a lot of friends who work in the fitness industry who struggle to get and to retain members, and they do care. They're just not very good at doing anything with that. They feel perhaps that they'd be hassling people if they phone them up or send them messages, or they perhaps don't always fully appreciate how they come across to people, and perhaps don't kind of manage that a little bit to help people take those steps to come and seek a bit of guidance and help from them. And it's a shame, really, because I've got a lot of friends in the fitness industry who are really, really struggling at the moment over this last year. And obviously, things haven't been massively easy for us, but I've been pretty happy with how the last year has gone. And these guys that are struggling, they're nice people. They've got families, they've got kids, and every time I'm like, I'll give them a bit of advice on what they need to, or not necessarily need to do, but what they could do. Things I found work really well, and they just don't feel able to, which is a real shame, not only for them, but for the people they could potentially be serving. Because that's what I think as well. It's not that I'm not just doing these things just to pay the bills and feed my kids. I'm doing it because it actually helps the people who've come and said that they want help.
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool. So you got started. Originally, we only do the first 8 weeks, which is what a lot of people expect when they first start. It's very much the idea is that we meet someone where they're at. You know, if we try and sell someone lifelong change, it sounds nice in theory, but we're perhaps not quite there yet at that particular point. Whereas an 8-week challenge and transformation, we feel we can do that. How did those first 8 weeks go?
They were up and down. I did lose weight. I think on the club scales, I think it was £13. At home, it was a little bit more, but it was not close enough to the 20. I found it relatively easy not easy to start with, but when you're making that massive change for the first time, when you start, when you totally change the way you eat and you're really motivated. I remember going shopping and buying loads of vegetables, and I knew how to eat sensibly. I've always known how to eat sensibly. I've just chosen not to. But for whatever reason, I'd found my motivation. I was ready and raring to go. I found the sessions absolutely amazing. I absolutely loved the sessions. It was brilliant. It was the best thing, and that was the easiest side to stick to. I intended to do 3 sessions a week, and for the first month, that's probably what I did. But after that, I would say it came into a little bit of an addiction, and I had that massive FOMO fear, a huge fear of missing something. So I would try and do as many sessions as I could because I wanted to try them all. So I was a 6 a.m.er,
Yeah.
which was a huge shock to the system. I'm not an early riser. I hate getting out of bed. I hate going to bed as well, so I don't get a lot of sleep. I'm constantly tired because I don't sleep. enough. I sleep really well. I always sleep well, but I just refuse to go to bed. And then I hate getting up. Sort of 5:30 alarm calls were a massive shock to the system, but I managed to do it pretty well. I used to wear a Fitbit and I had a silent alarm on my watch. So I was able to get up without disturbing too many people in the house. I would be able to get in and out like a ninja. So yeah, at 6 a.m. I found my people. There was a lovely vibe at 6 a.m. Got some great people. Made some friends really quickly. Even some people who are no longer at the club I'm still friends with, still see outside of I was going to say outside of work, outside of in social circumstances, yeah, when situations allow.
I remember them. Ish.
But yeah, for me, it was the sessions. They were my motivation. I thought they were absolutely brilliant. I'd never done anything like it. I was petrified. I remember walking into the club for the first time thinking, oh my God, where's the treadmill? Where's the exercise bike? What do people do in here? Lift weights? What? But yeah, soon, I found my place. It was great.
I think that's another thing that a lot of the fitness industry perhaps don't realise, that how they come across, not only them personally, but kind of what they do. It's scary to most people. Again, I've got good friends and I'm like, I almost feel intimidated by them when I see their stuff. And I've been doing this nearly 20 years and I know them personally. And I'm like, I see your videos, mate, and you've got massive muscles, a big beard. It all seems a little bit full on, which is obviously fine for some people who are attracted to that. And if that's the market you're going for, then awesome. But they perhaps just don't realise how they come across. I think I'm a normal person. I'm a nice guy, I like to think. But then I appreciate people who don't know me, who only see a very surface level amount of stuff of both me and what we do at the club, how that could potentially be intimidating, and therefore kind of hopefully manage that a little bit so people see a balance aspect to that. So you got your first 8 weeks there. You got some, although you didn't lose the weight that you perhaps initially might have intended, I remember you got some really good progress photos there, didn't you?
Yeah, I was really, really pleased. For me, it was never about the weight.
Yeah.
It would have been great to have achieved the Talent Challenge and get those first few months for free. Because I could never afford the membership. I remember sitting there in the briefing meeting going, I can't afford this. So I just gave across the joint account details and let Adam worry about it when I got home. So yeah, for me, it would have been brilliant to have been able to save that little bit of money, but it was never about the weight. It was all about how I felt and how I looked. So yeah, I was really, really pleased with my initial progress. I thought, I was really, really chuffed. Because I definitely lost inches, clothes fitted better. I felt so much better. Mood increased. I was tired because I'm always tired. We've crossed that bridge already. But yeah, I just felt 100 times better. And one thing I used to say at breaking meetings was what Joseph said to me after a few weeks. When he said, I'm so glad you joined. You're so much happier, more confident, and healthy. And it's just like, that was what it was all about, really, is being that role model to my kids and setting that good example and showing them that it didn't need to be boring.
Yeah, 100%. I think the deeper anyone gets with their own reasons for wanting to do something, the more powerful it is. Because losing weight is great and it is part of someone's journey and what have you. But if we only ever stay as surface level as losing weight, then we don't really care all that much about. And we definitely don't care about how much we weigh per se, and we're not necessarily that bothered about our body fat levels. It's what that then brings to our life and the stuff that's important to us. And I think I've got a series of videos I filmed only a couple of days ago, ready to go out to the members next week, covering that and how, if we get deep on our why and what's important to us and how it ties into the kind of person that we are and see ourselves becoming and want to be, those sort of things are way more powerful than just the position of a needle on the scale.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So obviously then you've been a member for a number of more months, and a couple of years-ish later, you obviously then start to take the journey to becoming a coach. I know how that happened, but for those that don't, what happened there?
It was something because I was enjoying it so much. I just thought, well, why don't I learn to do that? I could do that. And so I remember speaking to you about it probably about a year before I actually did it. I thought, I can't afford the training right now. I'm too busy. It's always the way. I'm always too busy. I'll come back to it. And at that point, Jen was training as well, and I thought, there's probably not really the need for another coach anyway. Jen's doing it. There's enough. I'll just put it on the back burner. And then I remember one night I was out. It must have been a social event. I can't remember the reasons we were at, but we were in the Red Willow, and Faye and Bernie ambushed me, and they said, "Claire, why have you not trained to be a coach?" I was like, "Oh, okay. If somebody else says I can do this as well, then that sort of gave me that validation as well." They also told me a little bit more about the training that I needed to do, because I was a bit intimidated by the training. Partly the cost and partly how intense it might be, but actually, you know, what I actually needed to do was, it was really interesting. It didn't take over my life. It didn't take ages. So yeah, trained to do, you know, my level 2 fitness instructor, which I managed to fit in plenty of time before lockdown and before covering Matt's paternity leave, which was perfect timing, really. The tests were hard. I was the biology side. You know, I've not really done any science since I left school, and I was a little bit. I did find that intense, but I'm a very lastminute.com learner. In fact, very lastminute.com in most things. I'll always put stuff off without a deadline. You tend to do that, don't you? And so I did leave it too late. I think I'd got a really full on time at work as well. So I did put myself under quite a lot of pressure. But to my surprise, I passed the exams. The boot camp course was far more, you know, what we do, and so much more interesting. So much more from that. But I started with that, didn't I? I did the boot camp course first,
Yeah.
and then did the level 2. So, you know, I kind of felt like I'd already got what I needed to be a coach, because the level 2, it adds a little bit of understanding, doesn't it, in background and theory, but really to do the sort of stuff we do, it was the boot camp course that was the most useful. So yeah, found it really useful, really interesting. Initially covered Matt's paternity leave, and then managed to pick up some more shifts along the way.
That's funny, because it feels like, I do vividly remember you starting then actually on Matt's paternity leave, but it feels like you've been coaching for longer than that, which is weird, because obviously a fairly high proportion of the time that you have been coaching, we've been in lockdowns and what have you. So, strange.
Yeah, I've not done a lot really, actually,
Yeah,
in the
in
club
person,
with
yeah.
people before lockdown. Only 2 months worth of sessions, I think it was.
You were then the person that took the last sessions before going into the first lockdown. Then the first sessions coming out of that. Then was it the last sessions and the first sessions around the second, like the mini month long lockdown, I think. And then possibly was it the last sessions before this lockdown? Is that right? Or you've had most of the first and last by coincidence, haven't you?
Yeah, I think there was one that Jen took, the one before we went into tier 4, was it?
Yeah.
But yeah, I have had most of the first and last, and I remember I was actually in the club when the first lockdown was announced.
Yeah, because it was about 7 o'clock on that Monday, wasn't it? Just a couple of days over a year ago now, and no, wait a minute.
It was the Friday night.
It was a Friday. That wasn't the lockdown as such. That was a closing of gyms and of things like that. And then we streamed the sessions from the club on the Saturday, which possibly was you, and then the Monday, which was me. We started Ninja Families that day. You guys came in and did Ninja Families at 3 o'clock that Monday afternoon.
Yeah, we did. Gosh, yeah.
And then that evening, full lockdown, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was
just over a year ago. So just to rewind slightly there, actually, to talking about your qualifying and what have you. You're entirely right. What you said about the level 2 there is, for what we do, actually, whilst it's useful to have that knowledge, and it's essential really, on a day-to-day basis, a lot of that kind of stuff isn't massively relevant to what we do in terms of taking the sessions. I've always said that we hire for attitude and train for skill. You know, taking a session isn't, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's not brain surgery. It's anyone who has the right attitude and is willing to learn can get the hang of that. But then you're going to want the right sort of person who's personable, approachable, who can help, who can talk to members, help get the most out of them. That to me is a far bigger win. If they haven't got that, they'll never get that. If they don't know how to take a session, they can learn how to take a session.
Yeah.
And I think, again, that's where, at least from my opinion, a lot of the fitness industry go wrong. They concentrate exclusively on the quality of the workout, the session, which obviously is essential. That's essentially what people join for. But if that's all they have, then I think most people are only going to get so far.
It's what they join for, isn't it? But it's not what makes them stay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's almost a given, really, that whenever you go somewhere like us or do a one-to-one train or anything like that, that you can get a good workout. That's kind of a given. It's like that's a bare bones really, and if there's nothing above and beyond that, I think again they'll limit the success of the people that they work with. So I realised I've skipped ahead a little bit actually on your journey as a member, because there's obviously a lot more happened within those few years between being a member and being a coach. I can think of a couple of examples, but let me know any particular highlights of that, things that you did, things that you perhaps didn't think you'd do before you joined.
What, you mean like that Born Survivor that I did?
That was one of them. How many weeks was it?
6.
6 weeks. So you were 6 weeks, and was Jamie Sinclair 6 weeks as well, or was he even less? Like 3 weeks?
He was the previous Born Survivor. So Jamie did the Born Survivor in the September.
Yeah.
And then I did the following one in the May. So Lee and I joined. We joined on the same night. And then we did the same sessions. We used to do 6 a.m. together. And then we both did Born Survivor. But Lee didn't tell anyone he was doing Born Survivor, did he?
No, he didn't.
Whereas I told everyone, and I got loads of sponsors for it, because Mum was poorly at the time. I remember thinking about it. You asked me about it a couple of times. I'm like, don't know about that. It's a bit scary. I thought, could I do it? Could I do it? I'm like, nah, can't do it. And then it was eating away at me. I was like, I'm thinking about this too much. I'm going to have to do it. So I did it, and I absolutely loved it. It was I'd run a 10K before. I did it. I'd actually run a 10K a couple of years previous. So I knew I could do the distance, but I never thought I'd be able to do the obstacles or anything like that. And it was just an amazing day. I was really new in my academy journey. I didn't know that many people then, but I managed to find a few people to tag along with and to help get me round. I was just determined to finish it, and getting up that wall at the end was just the most amazing feeling. And then, so as soon as booking opened for the following year, I was like, I'm doing that again. And I'd got my ticket way before you'd said whether or not we were doing it. In fact, I don't think we did do it I don't think we officially did it that following year.
There was one year we didn't do an official team, because I felt I'd kind of almost like badgered everyone to death over it, and I guess it would have been the year after that, because that was the particularly big team, wasn't it? Yeah. So that was 2017. 2018 we didn't have an official team. 2019 we did. 2020 we were just starting to get set up. Obviously that didn't happen.
So we did Tough Tribe later the same year.
We did, yeah.
Which again was also brilliant. I thought some of the obstacles in that were excellent, but it was just so much running involved in Tough Tribe.
Yeah. That's one thing I like about Born Survivor, is whilst it is 10K, from a running perspective, I actually find it way easier than running a 10K, because when you're running a 10K, you're essentially non-stop, or as much as you can for that. That's a bit more of a walk run for 3, 4, 5, 600 meters. Do an obstacle, maybe wait a couple of minutes, maybe have a bit of a chat, help your friends over it, and keep moving. Which doesn't mean it's easy, but I think it's done a bit more at your own pace than a 10K run would be.
Yeah,
I think it was gauged just right from that respect, and I think it kind of means that not anyone, because I appreciate some people might have physical limits that mean they can't do it, but give or take, the vast majority of people can do it. Most people could go out for a 10K walk. It might take them a few hours, they might have a few rests along the way, but most people can do that.
Yep.
So the obstacles, I said right from the start, there might be a handful that you choose not to do, or physically can't do, or need a bit of help with, but that's absolutely fine. You'll still have done 20 or 25 more obstacles and 10K more distance than 99% of the population that day. And I mean, like, Lee's a prime example. Lee, at that point, he'd only joined 6 weeks before, and he'll freely admit he'd got a lot of improving in his conditioning and fitness to still to come. But he got around and was proud of himself for doing it.
I kept looking for Lee that day, and that is one of the things that kept me going. I was trying to catch up with Lee, but I knew he was ahead of me. Because he'd got himself with a group of people to get himself around, hadn't he? And I know he'd perhaps pushed himself a little bit harder than he should have done. And I was desperately, like, it was one of the things that kept me going. I'm like, right, I need to catch up with Lee. So yeah, it was good.
Did you catch up with him?
No. I think he was maybe about 20 minutes ahead of me. Not ages, but yeah, a little bit ahead of me.
We all set off on the same time, didn't we? Because the 2 years afterwards, we did staggered starts with a view that we'd finish at the same time. I think that year we all set off at the same time and had essentially staggered finishes, didn't we? So I'm looking forward to, hopefully, I mean, realistically this year it might be still too early, but by next year you kind of assume we can be doing something like that again, which...
Well, they shared a post, didn't they? Was it last week or the week before?
Very recently, yeah.
Excitement, yeah. So, and I was like, oh no, because I remember this time last year being quite relieved when it was cancelled,
Yeah.
and because I didn't feel physically ready. And when I saw the post the other day, I was like, oh no, I'm not sure I'm ready this year.
It's
But
hard to say if that's
now
something.
I'm quite excited again.
It's hard to say if that's something that can take place because whilst it's outdoors, you are also at some point really close up to each other and breathing on each other, and yeah, maybe potentially they might modify it. They might have a slightly adjusted version that allows some degree of social distancing. 'Cause obviously, by that point later this year, in theory, we'll have all had the jab and what. Well, we'll see anyway. We'll see. It's something to cross when we come to it.
They'll
I
have
think you.
exercise on all the walls, won't they?
They'll have what hand sanitizer, especially clean mud brought in from somewhere else. And then what else? Over those few years where you were essentially not just, but where you were a member alone, what were the highlights of those times?
The powerlifting competition that I did, again, something I never thought I would do. I remember training for that on a Thursday evening. There was a few of us, so Jen and Faye, Bernie, Vicky,
Mm.
Sarah Marshall,
Yeah,
and Helen. I remember training together for the powerlifting competition, which we did Christmas 2018.
that sounds about right.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, and it was absolutely amazing. So I was at that stage in my life. That's when Mum was really poorly. They were
yeah.
her last few months, and I was up and down the A50, the A50 and the M1, going to visit Mum a lot. I took quite a lot of time off work, um, but every week I made sure I was back from my training because I wasn't missing my powerlifting training. And I remember Mum didn't get it at all. I'd show her the calluses on my hands, and she'd like, maybe after this competition, just don't do it anymore. And I was like, but Mum, I love it. And I know, she actually died the week before the competition. And it was kind of thinking of her that helped me get through. I failed my second deadlift. And I remember, really, really thinking of her. And I knew, even though she didn't get it, I knew how proud she was of me. And that helped to get me through that third deadlift, which was a PB at the time. I've beaten it since, but it was a PB at the time.
And what was that?
It was 102.5, I think.
Fantastic. Before you joined, did you ever imagine you'd be deadlifting over 100 kilos?
God, no. 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 So I did enter another powerlifting competition to do all three lifts.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't there. My head wasn't in the right place. I wasn't in the right space for training. And so I didn't do that one. I just had to let that one go. And it was not long before lockdown. It wasn't at Rise. It was going to be somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So that made me feel a little bit anxious about going somewhere else. It was good doing the competitions at the club because it was on home turf and we felt comfortable. I would definitely feel a lot more anxious doing one in a different space. But I remember watching the first powerlifting competition that I saw down the club. I was like, wow, that is amazing. So really, training to do that and be a part of that was, an experience I never ever thought I would do. I thought only people who looked big and strong did stuff like that. And I was big and strong. I just wasn't a traditional looking lifter.
You were big and strong for your category. It's about you
Yeah.
lift or compete in anything really, not just that, but in any field. You're in the category that's relevant to you. And I think what people often really like about powerlifting, which surprises them, because I'd say the vast majority of people that have ever done any of the competitions that we've been kind of associated with never expected that they would do. They like the fact that there's a fairly easy measure of progress there. It's quite obvious if you're getting better, whereas it's perhaps a little bit more clouded in some of the physical things. If it's a team sport, there's advantages to that, but it's hard really to see progress in that in the same way it is. It's nice and simple with powerlifting. If your numbers going up, you build confidence, you build momentum, you feel it's working. If it's not, you can tweak and refine your approach.
Yeah, definitely.
So as you just mentioned there about your mum, obviously your mum was she was ill when you first joined, but obviously that all got worse through those next few years, and sadly lost her. What's that now? 2.5 years ago? Is that now?
It's just over 2 years.
Yeah, goodness me. How did you find what you were doing kind of at Rise and everything? Did that help with that process for you?
Yeah, definitely. because I was taking care of my physical health, because at that point I was eating really well as well. I was training hard, I was eating well. And I remember mum saying something about food when I was going down to visit, and I'm like, tell dad not to worry, I'll bring my own food. I was like, I can't believe I'm being that idiot that's taking their own food to their parents' house. But I actually did, because it was that important to me at the time. So I was taking really good care of myself,
Yeah.
which meant that mentally I was able to be, as strong as I could be. So yeah, that definitely helped. And knowing that I'd got the support of so many people as well. I'd never had that. I'd never been a part of any sort of club before. But at Rise, most people know me, and back then, most people knew me too, because I was around a lot. Evenings and mornings, I felt like I was kind of there a lot. So it meant that I'd got the support of so many people, and that was really overwhelming. Actually, is knowing how many people had got my back. It was lovely. I was very thankful to have that family in my life.
Definitely, yeah. So I think you hit the nail on the head there. What you said about, for me, again, when we do things like £20 challenges and all that, it's very much that meeting people where they are, because most people, whilst they fully appreciate the idea of lifelong changes and forming healthy habits and this being good for my mental health, they appreciate that sounds good, but they're not necessarily quite there at the point that we first meet them. Losing £20 sounds awesome, and then hopefully over time it becomes both that and the things I just mentioned there. But for me, really, that's what we've always been about. If anything, the name itself suggests it. If we were about weight loss, then the name of the business would be lose or down, not rise.
Absolutely, yeah.
What we're about is going up, and a massive part of that is mental health. And only a few months ago, I heard, to me, what is the perfect phrase for summing kind of our hopeful approach to mental, or part of it anyway, our approach to mental health is that mental health needs physical support, because I get that everyone has their own journey, and I get that there's chemical imbalances in the brain, all this sort of stuff. None of those things are ever in dispute. But at the same time, I know from nearly 20 years of doing this, that everyone I've ever met, that doing certain things physically, whether that be what their exercise is, their maybe meditation, maybe their eating, all that sort of stuff, always helps. Always.
Yeah.
I've never met a single person for whom that makes it worse, or even for whom it stays the same. It might be different in people. Some different people. Some people might come in at a 1 out of 10 and it gets them up to a 2. That's great. Some people might come in at a 7 and it gets them up to a 10. But I'm yet to meet a single person who doesn't benefit mentally from those physical changes. And I completely get it's. I mean, the common phrase is, it's not that easy. I know it's not that easy. Nothing's as easy as saying the words. It's never going to be as easy to do a workout as to say, I want to do a workout. But then it's never as easy to say, I watch my favorite program on Netflix, as it is to actually do it. Well, sorry, the way around. It's never as easy to eat a tub of ice cream as it is to say, I'm going to eat a tub of ice cream. Nothing's as easy as saying it. It doesn't then mean that it's not worth doing, and that we can work past that, the challenges and frustrations of doing that, and gain the benefits from it. So we rewound a bit there. We come a bit more back up to date. In terms then of your progress over the last sort of couple of years, you've mentioned elsewhere how you found actually in some ways being a coach challenging for your own sort of health and fitness journey. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so I think most people know that I'm, outside of the club, I'm in a job that I don't particularly enjoy, and I've been in it for I've been not enjoying it for 4 years, so I've been there for nearly 7, and I've been on a journey of attempting to leave the business for sort of 4 years. I'm one of those people who don't say no to things. My boss there, he knows how to make me say, he knows how to say things to make me think that he's right. And I am actually in the process of leaving now. It's only going to be a few more weeks before I'm out. So over those last 4 years, I've gradually reduced my hours. So things have been changing. So I would say in the last 18 months, there's just been little changes that have changed routines and things as well. So when I started training to become a coach, I was working in the evenings because I was covering Matt's sessions, which were Tuesday and Thursday evenings, and working till 7 o'clock. Well, I know working till 8 o'clock. By the time you finish the session, and then getting home and needing to sort out tea and all that sort of stuff. It didn't fit very well with training at 6 o'clock in the morning. So getting up at 5:15, going for a workout, having a day at work, then getting home, sorting the kids out, going back out to work again. I found it really hard to find my new routine with how I was going to train myself. And I'm still adapting to that. So obviously lockdown's brought its own challenges. I've just been thinking while we're talking, I've always said lockdown didn't really make that much difference to me because I'm still working. I'm still working for nursery, still working for you guys. And so I've still got routines. I'm still leaving the house. I've still got work to go to. I'm still seeing people at nursery. But what Rise has brought for me to keep that stability has been really good for my mental health. Because I'm still working and I've still got those routines, that's actually really helped me mentally. So although physically I'm not where I want to be because I'm struggling to be able to find the time to train that suits me, mentally it actually I'm in a lot better position than I thought I could, than maybe other people are. And I've only just realised that while we've been talking, that's one of the things that it has brought. So and I would say it's been 18 months since I've fallen out of my training rhythm. I was previously doing 4, 5, sometimes even 6 sessions a week. At the minute, I'm managing 1 or 2, but that's 1 or 2 more than I was managing 6 months ago. Obviously, coaching sessions, you expend a little bit of energy, but you're not doing the session yourself. Yeah. And even there are the odd occasion where I'm going to do the session with you guys. It's still not the same as if you were doing it because you can't put your all into it because you can't be out of breath. You're talking people.
You need to speak as well, don't you?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, I'm trying to build myself up gently. I started by going, I'm going to do 3 sessions a week and not managing it. And now I'm like, okay, I'm going to do 2. So it's just trying to find that balance because I don't want to be disheartened. I am trying to find my way again, and I know my eating is not in a good place. I've never had a brilliant relationship with food. I'm in a place at the moment where I kind of eat what I want when I want to, and I know it's not right, and I know I shouldn't be doing that, and I know it's taking me further away from my goals. But trying to rein that in, I'm finding really, really difficult. And I'm hopeful that once I get exercise in place that is going to help, because I know the two go hand in hand really well. Once you start to make progress in one area, it helps to bring that other one up as well. So I'm getting there, but I am by no means in any place close to where I would like to be, or even where I was. But I'm still here. I did an in-body scan a couple of weeks ago, and it's almost identical to this time last year. So that shows me, I'm not going backwards.
Yeah, not going backwards over COVID is amazing.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm trying not to compare myself to other people because I know that's not what we should do, and that's what we say. But it's really hard not to. Some people have made absolutely incredible progress over lockdown. I think they're amazing. So it's hard to think, oh, if she can do it, why can't I do it? So just sort of detaching myself from that and knowing that, I've got the support.
Right, guys, we actually lost each other there for a little bit, internet connection issues. Hopefully, I did pause the recording fairly quickly, so you might have had like 10 seconds-ish of just, it did sound a little bit almost like gibberish. Claire's words were stretched out and elongated. But we were talking about some of the more, almost the less good, if you will, parts of Claire's journey over the last few years. And we started to have this conversation just before we started recording the podcast. And I said, actually, we should save this for the podcast. That's kind of the point. That what I would like to think that we're reasonable at is being honest and open about those sort of things. I think all coaches, from my experience, have periods of struggling with different aspects of their life. Fair enough, some may always find it relatively easy to train and eat well, but I know many that are struggling with their business or struggling with maybe with personal relationships or some other aspects of their lives. But I think there's a temptation when you're a coach to only put out there that front of house stage managed view of yourself, to almost make it look like our lives are perfect. If you want your life to be perfect as well, come and see us. But if anything, that has the opposite effect to what most coaches expect it will. It doesn't attract people. If anything, it puts them off, because firstly, it doesn't seem real. I think we all kind of know that that's perhaps only half the story, but also we don't feel that's something that we can then achieve. If we have as coaches, have the honesty and integrity to share a balanced view of our own experiences and what have you, that hopefully helps people more, because they see that we are just normal people who have the same difficulties and challenges. Maybe again, some areas we find more or less easy than others, but it helps those people then make the positive changes in their own lives. So you're back to training a couple of times a week, you said, Claire?
Yeah. So I know I need to get the food side under control. I'm hopeful that, once I start to feel a little bit better, once I'm being more active, you making a conscious effort to get out for walks and things like that, attending sessions, trying to find this new balance of how fits for us. 6 a.m. just doesn't work anymore. Adam doesn't sleep great, and I already go to bed too late for him. So trying to find that balance where he can get enough sleep. I can't get up at 5:30 because it just is. It's not going to happen. So I've done a few 9:30 sessions lately. I quite like that time, actually. It's just being mindful then to make sure that doesn't impact on the rest of the day. It was quite funny. I did a 9:30 session the other week, and I'd had my breakfast before school run. And all throughout the workout, I was thinking about food because I was working out in here, in the kitchen. And I was thinking, what am I going to have for breakfast? I'm going to have a Kit Kat. And I knew I'd got a Kit Kat somewhere. I was like, I'm going to have the Kit Kat after I worked out because I've earned it. And it got to the end of the session. I was like, I'm not going to have a Kit Kat. I've just worked really hard. I'm not going to do that. And I made myself some chicken sausages and some poached egg. And it was a bit. I thought, this is a nice healthy breakfast. I really pleased myself. And then I was like, hang on a minute, that's not breakfast. I was like, you've already had breakfast. So I'd had porridge. I was like, that was lunch. But I'd made that switch all throughout that session. I was thinking of this Kit Kat. I was like, yes, I can have that Kit Kat now. I'm going to have that Kit Kat. And I got to the end of the session, I'm like, why would you do that? So that was good. That was definite progress.
I always find that exercise helps me when I don't exercise. Realistically, over the last 20 years, I haven't really got to a lengthy period of not exercising. But that's because I know as soon as I miss a few days, how much worse I feel. Not awful, but definitely, let's say, normally on a normal day, my mood, my energy levels, let's say a 7 to an 8 out of 10. I miss a couple of days of exercise and I'm down at 5. And I'm like, well, if I'd made this a month of exercise miss, or a year or a decade, I'd feel pretty shit pretty quickly. So thankfully, and I get that it's easier for me because I'm there anyway. I completely get that, but I've generally not allowed myself to get to that position. But it doesn't mean that I wouldn't do. I know perfectly well that I would, and I know from years of doing different things that affect my mood and energy, and I get that they have that initial short-term benefit. But thankfully, I've managed to get myself in a position where I kind of realise it's not worth it. Actually, that's a sustained average. Things being better are more worthwhile. What I thought you were going to say, you were thinking about joining up with workout, Claire, was if there were any bears under your car. So for those that don't get the reference there, at Rise in general, a massive part of what we do is making the sessions fun and enjoyable. Now, I do like to think they are super effective as well, but ultimately, if you don't enjoy them, it doesn't matter how effective they are, you're not going to do them again. So the design of them, there's an element of making it interesting and fun, as well as it being a good workout. So often they have like names or themes that just sound and hopefully are more enticing than come and do some exercise. This last month's Monday session has been called Roadmap, because we are currently on the roadmap out of lockdown, and it's been 6 exercises done accumulator style, which are very tenuously connected to driving. So one of them, you're holding a pair of dumbbells in each hand and you're turning your hand as though you're steering a wheel. And the one that I was just mentioning there was you're down in a press-up position, so on your hands and your knees or toes, halfway down and holding. And it was called originally checking for repairs. like you're looking underneath your car to see if there's like an oil leak or anything like that. Claire, in the first session she did, and I was taking the session, she was joining in, thought I was saying checking for bears, which apparently around where Claire lives is a common issue. When you leave
Really common.
when you leave the house in the morning, you have to have a quick look underneath your car, make sure there's no bear there, and then you're on your way.
I nearly changed that on the whiteboard yesterday when I was in.
Well, I do say it in the session now. At the start, I generally say this was checking for repairs, but now, thanks to Claire's input, is now checking for bears. So I think, give or take, that brings us up to date. Anything else you feel that people listening would benefit from hearing about, or any other parts of your story and your experience you want to share?
I don't think so. I don't think there's anything there that we've not covered historically.
I'd like to think what people will get from this, and really all podcasts that we've done with coaches, is that coaches are normal people. They have their own challenges and frustrations. Again, they may have certain aspects of it that they find easier or harder, but we are normal people. And I think what really has always been invaluable for the coaches at the club is that they've always started as members. Apart from literally the first two when we opened the doors, everyone since then started as a member. Were either unqualified or perhaps actually one of them or two of them had qualifications but weren't using them, and have decided they want to join the team, and therefore they understand and believe in kind of the way we do things, and they that's kind of their, it's something they believe in rather than just purely a paycheck, and they've got that experience of going through it. They've got the periods of it being more difficult and the challenges, and I think they get more perhaps than the average fit pro what most members are finding from their experience.
Definitely.
And hopefully more willing to share those things. So I said that to me is the difference. I've got a lot of fit pro friends. I struggle to name any one of them or any person I've ever met, to be honest, where every aspect of their life is perfect. I don't think I've ever met that person. Some people might earn shed loads of money. Some people might be super mega fit. Some people might have great relationships. I don't really know if I've met anyone where everything that they would care about is exactly where they'd like it to be. We're perhaps just more willing to share that.
Absolutely, definitely.
So guys, yeah, hope you enjoyed that. And Claire, thank you for your time this morning. It's Adam's birthday today, isn't it?
It is, yeah, it is.
I presume he's working at the moment, is he?
Yeah.
You got any plans?
Faye covered the early morning sessions for me so that I could, so that Adam could have a lie-in.
Yeah.
We've only done the one session this morning, whereas normally I'd do three. No, we're just going to take away tonight. There's a Lebanese place in town, Elaf.
Okay.
Menu ready.
You showed me the menu as we speak. Yeah. So you guys are entering the last year of your 30s now, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah. I'm 2 months older than him, so we've.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are you feeling about that?
Pardon? I'm all right now, actually. Yeah. So my biggest brother turns 50 next month.
Yeah, I remember you said
this. I'm at peace with that because he's going to turn 50 before, almost a year before I turn 40. So I'm good with that.
It's a funny age, 40, isn't it? Like, I think, to be honest, any time you turn a new decade, it makes you take stock and think. And essentially, anyone younger than you is still young. Like, if someone said, "Oh, I'm turning 30, I'm feeling old," you'd be like, "Don't be ridiculous." But remember when I turned 30, I was like, "Jesus." And then us saying this, I'm sure anyone who's 60 or 70 now would be like, 40 is still a spring chicken. But it does make you think, doesn't it?
Remember my own mum turning 40.
Me too.
And thinking, I vividly remember her 40th birthday. And it was like, she's so old. I didn't think she was old, but 40, like, wow, that's serious. But yeah, I look back at my childhood and I think I definitely feel and act younger than my mum did at this age. Definitely way cooler.
I like to think the same as well. I like to think that 40-year-olds now look younger than they used to. But then I think part of that with your own parents and that generation is then that you've seen them age in between. So actually now, every now and again, like when it was my 40th last year, my sister shared a load of photos of me at different ages. And I look at my dad, age 40, and go, well, actually, he probably looks about the same age I do now. I've just got gradually used to him being a 50, 60 and 70-year-old in the meantime.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'm fairly sure my kids look at me and think of me in exactly the same way as I did my dad age 40, and probably every generation ever has looked at their parents at age whatever.
Yeah, but I am the age gap between the age gap between me and Harry is the same as the age gap between me and my mum.
Yeah.
and the age gap between me and Joseph is the same as the age gap between me and my dad.
Okay, so
I could kind of put myself in their shoes at the same age. And I think, yeah, when I was Harry's age, Mum was my age.
yeah,
And yeah, it's yeah, I think it's just relatable. Yeah, I like it.
awesome, cool. Right, thanks for your time, Claire. I hope you guys enjoyed that.
Cheers, John. Thank you.